in the other variation. And the other variation is A6 variation, which is much more popular variation. D6, D5, knight C3, knight F6, bishop G5, bishop E7, E5, knight D7, bishop takes, queen takes, F4, and A6 here. The idea of A6 move is that black does not want to castle kingside at all. Knight F3, pawn C5, pawn takes C5. And again here, black can go knight C6 and queen D2, and here black has an option to take with a knight on C5 or to take with the queen. Actually, I had a very, very interesting game where black played knight takes C5. On which I castle. My opponent went B5. I went king B1. Oh no, actually I went bishop D3. And I have to go here bishop D3. Well, here is the ground rule for these positions. You don't go bishop D3 until you have to. And I think after B5 we have to. The reason why we have to, because that's the main plan we want to do. If we do like any move, and king should be on B1 also. So if we make any of these moves, what is black gonna do? B4, knight E2, knight E4, and you will see that we're gonna be kind of uncomfortable here. We're gonna be very uncomfortable here. So here we have to go bishop D3, because on B4 we're going to go knight E2. And now knight E4 is not good, because we simply take and then go knight G5 and win this pawn. Well, bishop D3 has to be played, and it was played in this game. So black played queen to C7. I don't know whether it's a very good move or not, but the idea is knight takes D3, and in case I take with a pawn, probably B4. So I played simply king B1, but in general we need this move anyway. So black went knight A5. They want to play knight C4. I went knight E2. Knight is going to D4. That's a part of the plan. And now was played bishop B7, knight D4, and knight C4. Okay, I moved the queen to E2. I don't want to take on C4 voluntarily because bishop is going to open. So I went queen to E2 and black played knight A4. Now I have to take the bishop. So I did take the bishop. Couple of ways to take it. Now black still can take with a D pawn and still open the light square bishop. Yeah, but now it's different. Knight is not an active position, but somewhere on the edge of the board. And black lost a tempo, and after F5, black's position may become increasingly dangerous. And this is not very good. So what black did instead, they took with the B pawn, trying to organize attack on white's king. The threat, for example, is queen B6, winning the game, because now threatening queen takes B2 mate, and also knight C3. So C3 was played, and on queen B6, king A1 was played, and now rook B8, rook D2. Rook D2 can be played now, or F5. I played F5, and bishop went to C8. Well, what is going to happen here? We can play F takes E, f takes e and rook d2. I could have done this, but I decided to go rook to d2 immediately, because if those pawns were gone, maybe black can castle. I don't think black can think about castling if those pawns are on the board, because after castling in f6, it's not clear how black is going to continue the attack on b2 pawn, and white's plan is quite obvious. So what black did in this position, they simply played e takes f. Of course, I did it with the intention of playing e6, pawn takes e6, knight takes f5. And now you see that king is in danger, black's king. Black castled. I went knight e7 check, and I intended on king f7 to play knight c6, attacking the rook, and queen cannot take because knight e5 fork. Well, but this was by far the best option for black. Black went king to h8, and after knight e5, it's all over. Queen h5 and knight g6 threat, overwhelming threats. There's simply no defense, and position is absolutely lost. Black played knight c5, queen h5, and now threatening mate in 1, g6. I could have simply taken it, but I went queen h6, which leads to a mate in move or 2. Position is absolutely over. This is very typical. Very, very typical. But I have to mention that knight takes c5 in that position is not the main option. The main option is queen takes c5. And we're going to be in a moment in that position. Again, e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, e5, bishop g5, bishop e7, e5, knight d7, bishop takes, queen takes, f4, a6, knight f3, c5, d takes c, knight c6, queen d2, queen takes c5. This is a lot more popular option. Why they take with the queen? Because later they want to play b5, knight b6, knight c4, and queen kind of stands a little more actively. Well, we do the same thing. Again, we don't change anything. Here is the position where black starts. Black is having options. So we went f4. As I mentioned, castling is not castling is one option. c5 is not option because of knight b5. So castling we already did. a6 we are in progress. Knight f3, c5, dc. And we already covered knight takes c5. Actually, knight c6 can be played first. We already covered knight takes c5, and now we are on queen takes c5. We have the same plan, castle. But I have to mention before I castle, there is another option of queen f2. You can try to exchange queens, and I strongly believe white is still going to have some advantage, but I would rather castle long, b5, and again you see we don't play bishop d3 here, because the reason we don't play bishop b3 because b4 is no threat. We go knight e2, and there is no knight e4 like last time if knight was on c5. So we have to go king b1. Now, black may try to play bishop b7 and castling long, but I have to mention this. Bishop e7 is almost losing move in this position, because we have some simple shot, knight e4, and it's easy to see that black is almost lost. Knight d6 check came first, and if pawn takes, queen takes d7, will be devastating. So move to expect is knight b6 or b4, which is transposing about the same. Knight b6, we go bishop d3, b4, knight e2, a5. We go knight d4 here. And knight takes d4, knight takes d4. I like this position. Our plan is to go f5. Obviously, queen cannot take the knight because of bishop a6. And if black goes bishop a6, they're going to be in a lot of trouble because we can take, rook takes, and f5. You see, black's king will never feel safe here. On knight c4, we can go queen g5, and it's not clear what can black accomplish on a queen side, and white has concrete threats, and this position is not very good for black. So these ideas are integrated with the main opening analysis, and of course it's not complete. Opening analyses are never ever complete, because as technology develops in the world, that's how, and gets updated and upgraded, that's how chess openings do. They analysis ideas, they are developing more and more every time, every few days, every week, and we're gonna have to keep up with this. So that's all I know from all my updates from last production of DVDs of Encyclopedia about various different openings for white.